my channel. Welcome back to another video. I'm Messy Jessie and you're watching. Hi, hello, or rather I should say good evening. This is going to be my latest rendition in my Books That Booktube is Sleeping On series. I started this series late last year and I haven't been able to make more of these videos, so I'm really excited to be making one now. In this video, I'm going to be giving rapid fire reviews for books that I have read that I don't see other booktubers promoting and really reaching for. And I'm also going to be giving synopses of books that I have not read and really want to read that I don't see hype for on Booktube. But before I get into those books, I have to give a big shout out to the sponsor of today's video, which is none other than Kugali Media. I have worked with Kugali Media on their last campaign and I absolutely fell in love with them, the company, the vision, the comics that they put out. I keep up to date with their comics and I absolutely love them. They are so freaking good. And I am incredibly excited to be part of the campaign for their latest Kickstarter, which is African mythological horror comic. I was already sold by the concept. Like, once the concept was announced, I said, yes, absolutely. I want to be part of this campaign. Abso-freaking-lutely. Y'all know that I love horror. And once I got to check it out, I fell in love. The art is grim and stark, but with these beautiful accents that really make the characters pop. And it reads as if these characters are going to jump out of the page at you, which leads to this deeply immersive reading experience. And I absolutely love that from my comics. Also, I thought it was really awesome the way that Kugali fulfilled all of the promises that they made in the last Kickstarter, which was the one that I was a part of. It was for Nani Volume 1, and that was one of my favorite comics of 2020. Kugali is also doing really big and exciting things. They have a 2022 collaboration coming up with Disney for an animated series. Now, they started incredibly small. They have humble origins, and I'm so proud to see them start to grow and get recognition. And for us to finally get African representation in Disney, I'm really excited to see more of that. But if you are squeamish or not a fan of horror, if you just can't tolerate it, there are multiple Kickstarter campaigns that Kugali is launching this year, and these campaigns are for comics of all genres and for all age ranges. So there's going to be a narrative through Kugali Media that is for you regardless of your taste. So even if this isn't your tea, definitely please still check out Kugali Media and see what else they have to offer, because you are not going to be disappointed. So I'm going to leave the information for the Kickstarter in the description box and information about Kugali, their website. Please do whatever you can to support this small and growing company. They specifically focus on African writers and African narratives in their comics. And I absolutely love that. I think it's beautiful. African and Black folks absolutely deserve comics that are focused on us and represent who we are in the beautiful spectrum that we come in. Now I'm going to talk about these books. As I said, these are going to be rapid fire book reviews because it's late at night and I'm about to go to bed. I really wanted to film this video right before bed so that it was authentic. And also I wanted to do rapid fire reviews because I specifically do deep, really intense and intricate reviews of books on this channel. Sorry, my headscarf was slipping back and I tied it the way I wanted to. It's all ready for bed.
And I'm not trying to mess it up.
What was I saying? Oh my God, Jessie, it is time for bed. What was I saying? These books come from all genres and are marketed towards different age ranges. So I'm going to just hop into it. Oh, that's what I was saying. I was saying that I'm excited to do some shorter reviews for the people who watch my channel and just don't like my long reviews. Like, for those of you who like to go into books knowing as little as possible, this video is for you. Now I'm going to show off the pajamas that I am wearing. I got them from Shine, which I will leave that website down below. I am not affiliated with Shine in any way, but I really do like their clothes. They're nice and cheap and they're really creative. These are my pajamas. They are cookie PJs. Look at these shorts, and they're like nice and long and flowy. I just really dig them. Whew. Let's get into the video. The first book that I want to talk about is another graphic novel, and it is called Map to the Sun. This was one of my anticipated reads, specifically because of the cover art and the fact that it was from an AAPI author. I've been waiting on this book for a while, and I just love the art style. I love the texture of the pages. Just the use of color and the way that these scenes are drawn is like really easy to follow. And it's just bursting, not only with color, but with personality, if that makes sense. This is about two individuals who have been friends since the beginning of the summer, and they have become inseparable. Then one of the girls moves away and stops answering the other's messages. Years go by and she is ready to resume the friendship, but the other one isn't. But both of them play basketball and are on the same team. So this becomes lots of drama, and I'm just really excited for that one. And I have not read that one yet, in case that wasn't clear. The next book is A Deadly Inside Scoop by Abby Collette, and this is a fun, lighthearted, comedic mystery by a Black author, and she writes lighthearted kind of beach mystery thrillery reads. They're just really easy to get through. I'm really excited about this. This is about a woman whose family owns an ice cream shop in Chicago, but her life is turned upside down when a man who has a notorious feud with her family turns up dead, and people are looking at her as the prime suspect. That sounds so good, and I just cannot wait to read it. Then I have a book that I have seen very little hype for on Booktube, and this was sent to me by one of y'all in Canada, so thank you so much. And this book is called Hide and Seeker. It is a Black horror thriller novel. It is a middle grade novel, so this is something that young folk can read, which is super exciting. And I believe it's about this group of kids who are playing a game of hide and seek, and then it no longer becomes a game. It's supposed to be claustrophobic and very bloody, and I'm really excited. Then we have Full Disclosure, which is a YA novel about a young Black girl who is living with HIV, and I believe she is also asexual or queer in some way, or maybe she's bisexual. But as she starts dating this boy named Miles and sex becomes more of a possibility, she has to figure out how to tell him about her status, and she's scared. But it's also just about this character. Plus, this cover is beautiful. The use of colors over here, like, this artist really knew how to highlight Black skin. And finally, for the last of the books that Booktube isn't typing that I have not read and really want to read is Wonderland. This is by a European author named Zoe Stage, and I forget what country she is from. She lives in Pittsburgh. I thought for sure from her last book that she was living, like, born and raised in another country.
Okay, so I literally just made that up.
Apparently. This is a book that was gifted to me from Wineberry Books, so thank you so much. I loved Zoe's first novel, Baby Teeth, and that is a novel that people really either love or hate, and I loved it. And that novel featured a disabled main character, and I can't speak to the representation for how the disability was portrayed because it is not one of my disabilities, but I can say that I loved that the disability it didn't dominate the character, because I hate when authors are like, yep, this character is disabled and that's all you really learn about them. This book is about two people who have lived in the city for many years and decide to move to the mountains. So that always works out well. They have two children when they find out that something or someone is lurking in the woods. That sounds really cool. And if you look at the cover, it is an outline of an individual and you can see like roots of trees. It's just really creepy and I adore it. And that is an adult thriller. So now I'm going to get into the books that I am just really not seeing hype for that I have read and absolutely loved. The first one that I'm going to select is a young adult novel from an AAPI author, and that is Loveboat Taipei. Now, I have seen some hype for this on Booktube. I have seen a handful of booktubers reading this book, but not enough. And I feel like there are a lot of people who kind of know about this book, but don't realize how good it is, that they should be prioritizing it and picking it up. And especially with AAPI month coming up in May next month, you have time to order this and put it on your TBR or get a head start on it now. This is about a teenager named Ever Wong, whose family is from Taiwan. She is sent away to Taiwan by her parents for the summer, and it is not a fun summer camp that she is going to. It is a camp where she has to basically work on her studies from sunup to sundown with a bunch of other kids who come from families that are very strict, and it's about her connecting with her heritage because she really doesn't feel connected to it. Very white school. But it's also just about who this character is as a person, and she is a dancer, but her parents don't want her to pursue dance. I believe they want her to be a medical doctor, and her father is a medical doctor. So it's about your parents' expectations and coming of age, but also this book features a love triangle, and if you're like me and hate love triangles, this is the book for you. There are two books that have featured love triangles that I stan, and they are both going to be featured in this video. And I thought that they were handled so well. I really think that you should read this book. Then I have a horror book by one of my favorite authors, which is none other than Nosferatu. This is basically a vampire novel. However, the concept of vampires is very, very different than what we're classically used to as the scheme of what is a vampire. So I loved that Joe Hill took that idea of the vampire and ran with it and created his own mythos for it. He is also known as Stephen King's son, and I honestly think that he is such a better writer than his father. This book is often critiqued for the fact that it is just over 600 pages long, but each of these pages is worth it. These characters feel Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo real by the end of the novel. This book made me cry not once, not twice, but 3 times, which is no book has ever made me cry 3 times, but this book really touched me, and I very rarely cry from books because I'm dead inside. Then we have another adult novel. This is an adult literature novel that won the Pulitzer Prize, none other than The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. This is my first of Colson Whitehead's works. He wrote The Underground Railroad, and I also believe he's written a bunch of essays, and I heard his name and how revered he was, but never read him. So this is a book that is based off of the true story of this reformatory school in the 60s or the 50s that was outed for having abused and killed over 111 children. And this book is about a young Black boy named Elwood who has always lived on the straight and narrow, and then there's a misunderstanding, and this racist cop just doesn't listen to him, doesn't believe him, and arrests him, and then a judge sends him to a reformatory school for boys. But the school is literally a house of horrors. These kids are abused in many ways and often beaten to the point of murder, and those scenes are very graphic and vivid. And even though this book is 195 pages long, you live a lifetime, and it was one of the most effective books I've ever read. There is a plot twist at the end of this book that blew my freaking mind. I was completely, totally, and utterly shook. As well, the writing is beautiful, but it is not flowery. Definitely read this book. Then we have an adult queer own voices short story collection called Sarahland. This is by a queer author, and each of these stories is so unique, unputdownable, and they cover such a wide array of topics, but the thing that connects them is the queerness of each of them, as well as the fact that all of the protagonists of these stories are named Sarah. And basically this is a story about exploring modern Jewish identity, an anthology about modern Jewish identity, and it was so good. Then we have another short story collection. This is a recent release. It was one of my most anticipated releases of the year, and it is by an AAPI author. This is a adult anthology called Land of Big Numbers. And it is very similar to Sarahland in the sense that the only thing that connects these stories is that these people are all Chinese, and it explores the diversity that exists within the Chinese population. So the stories cover kind of different genres and concepts, different genders of people, different classes of people, and they were phenomenal. This and Sarahland are two of the most moving and incredible must-read anthologies that I have ever read. Okay, I have 4 books left. The next book is a YA contemporary, and this is the other book that features a love triangle that I root for. So these are the only 2 books. Loveboat Taipei and Happily Ever Afters are the only 2 love triangles that I have rooted for. So this is about a young biracial black and white black girl named Tess, and Tessa is a really good romance writer, and she started romance by writing really like nerdy fan fiction, and her mother secretly submits her work to this school for the creatively talented individuals. It's a very prestigious school, and people who graduate from this high school go on to do great things. And once she starts attending the school, she develops imposter syndrome and loses her writing groove. So she and her best friend devise this plan to turn her life into a rom-com in order to get her groove back, which leads her to get involved with the school's it boy, and also being torn between the school underdog who is nerdy and geeky and loves to bake. He is not the standard of what is classically attractive. And so she's literally torn between 2 worlds. And both of these boys were built up so well. And I could go on, but again, I'm not going to get too deep into this because this video is supposed to be about like short and sweet. I will say that cheating is a part of this book. There is no outright cheating, but there is towing the line. So if that's something you're really sensitive to, be mindful of that going in. I would also say trigger warnings for racism in particular and microaggressions. And then her best friend is AAPI, and their friendship is very complicated, and her brother lives with multiple disabilities. There's just a great amount of types of people included in this novel, and I really appreciated it. Then I have a book that is probably going to be on my top books of 2021, and that is Dream Country. This is a debut novel centering a boy who is a refugee from Liberia, and he is going through a lot in terms of microaggressions at his school, in particular from Black American kids who see themselves as above the Black refugee population. And eventually his bullying leads him to have a violent outburst, and he beats the living crap out of this kid, and his parents are like, nope,
You're going home to Liberia.
and it's about what happens after. The story then becomes a little bit of historical fiction and oscillates between history and modern. And then at the end, these stories are slowly being weaved together, and the end of the novel has an amazing plot twist. One of my favorite plot twists ever. You have to read this, especially if you don't know anything about Liberian folk and Liberian refugees. This book is set where I live, and it is set in Brooklyn Center, which there's a lot of attention on Brooklyn Center right now because of the recent killing of a Black man. But in Brooklyn Center in particular, there are a lot of Black refugees who are constantly tormented by the general population and also by police. This book is also very relevant to what's happening right now. Then I have a contemporary romance called The Antidote of Everything. This is one of my favorite relationships, and it is a slow burn, which is what made it one of my favorite relationships. And this is about 2 doctors who are best friends, and one of them is gay and ends up being fired because their clinic pretty much bans treating LGBT patients, in particular transgender patients. And this doctor is like, well, I'm not going to be a part of this organization, and also I'm gay, so I'm not going to stand for this anyway, and then is fired because of his sexuality as being inappropriate for the clinic, and it leads to this like viral media storm. And also people are saying that this gay doctor was stealing drugs, and so his best friend sets out to clear his name. And it's just very dramatic and funny, but also talks about really heavy topics like sexual assault, workplace violence, and issues that trans folks face within the medical field. And these are issues that so many non-trans people don't know about and must. So it is both educational and funny and light. And then you also get a lot of social commentary and like a really good romance as well. There's literally no reason not to read this book. And the author has a new book coming out shortly, and I'm so excited for it. And the last book that I have is what is thus far my favorite read of 2021. It's my favorite read, and that is How Beautiful We Were. I cannot express how crazy I am about this book. I really want to reread it within the next few months because I'm constantly thinking about this story. It tells the story of a fictional village called Kosawa, and generations ago, an American oil company begins drilling on Kosawa's land, and then over these generations, the land and the water supply gets poisoned, and the villagers, particularly their children who are the most vulnerable and the elderly, start dying from genetic diseases and physical diseases. Kids are born with defects, and on top of that, the land is completely unusable. They have no clean water, so they're drinking poisoned water. And after decades of this, with the oil company saying, oh, we're going to stop drilling soon, we'll stop drilling soon, these villagers decide to fight back. It is one of the best stories I've ever read in my life. And it is also connected to Black Lives Matter because it is an issue of environmental justice, of white companies and wealthy corporations in America actively doing work that benefits Americans at the expense of Africans. In particular, the oil that they are pulling from this village is used to fuel our cars. So it also talks about the way that Americans driving cars negatively impacts struggling poor African communities and destroys them. And I'm not saying stop driving cars, but it is good to be mindful of where oil comes from. You know what I mean? And that's also a reason why driving less is important, like why it literally saves lives to drive less. Although there's so many reasons, it just gives you so much to think about. And it is a book that like I beg all Westerners to read, all white people to read. But mind you, there is a lot of trauma in this book, so look up trigger warnings. And that is gonna do it for this video. I hope that you got some good recommendations. I am so excited to chat with y'all in the comment section. If you made it this far in the video, comment down below with the word cookie, because we got cookies. If you want more content from me, follow me on my Instagram, bowtiesandbooks, but all of my social media links will be in the description box below. Until next time, stay safe, wear your mask. I can't wait to see you in my next video. Good night.